It's time for the Checkered Flag on the No Coast Network. 104.9 FM KBOE and all over the world at KBOEradio.com. The Checkered Flag is presented by Mahaska, National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum, Sigourney Body Shop, Danny's Auto Supply, Quality Car Wash, Morton Buildings, Motor Inn Auto Group of Knoxville, Vanderlinden Detailing, Schroeder Alignment and Towing, Vital Ministries, RJ Performance, and Vanderbeek Truck Accessories. It's time for the Checkered Flag on your station for racing. 104.9 FM KBOE and all over the world at KBOEradio.com.
Welcome in, ladies and gents. We are live for another edition of the Checkered Flag right here on 104.9 FM KBOE and with video all over the world on KBOEradio.com. My name is Emery Songer. We got a fantastic show for you. We'll be recapping Southern Iowa Speedway from last Wednesday. 7 classes were in action, an unbelievable night on Super Wednesday. We'll have recap and video for that on KBOEradio.com. Also, be sure to stay with us as we'll talk in Knoxville and Eddyville Raceway from their action last Saturday. Our guests this evening include Donnie Pearson, a local driver racing a stock car. We'll be talking to him, as well as Bill McCroskey, our racing correspondent from Knoxville Raceway. We'll talk a lot of sprint cars from last Wednesday, also some Sprint Invader action going into the weekend, and of course at Knoxville Raceway. And our first guest tonight is Steve Turlau. He is from Lunatic Promotions, and we'll be talking about the T-Bone Memorial Demolition Derby here at the Southern Iowa Speedway and talking just demo derbies in general. That's coming up later on in the show as well. We'll go ahead and start with a quick break to start things off. When we come back, we'll dig right into those recaps from all of the racing action from this past week right here on the Checkered Flag on the No Coast Network.
Lunatic Promotions is bringing you 2 nights of action with the largest demolition derby in the state of Iowa. Ranked as one of the top 10 derbies in the nation, the T-Bone Memorial Derby is June 9th and 10th at the Southern Iowa Speedway. Come watch hard-hitting drivers from all over the country battle in the full-size and compact class. Don't miss the T-Bone Memorial Derby, opening Friday night, the 9th at 7 p.m. at the Southern Iowa Speedway in Oskaloosa. Like Lunatic Promotions on Facebook.
Race fans, the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum is proud to announce our Salute to Champions Sammy Swindell exhibit in our museum this season from June 1st through October 1st. Stop in and view 6 of the sprint cars that Sammy's driven during his illustrious sprint car career and our exclusive Salute to Champions Sammy Swindell t-shirts and posters to match Sammy's race cars on display will be available inside our museum store. That's the Salute to Champions Sammy Swindell exhibit beginning June 1st and running through October 1st. Only at the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum in Knoxville.
Welcome back to the Checkered Flag live here on the No Coast Network and 104.9 FM KBOE. We appreciate you for joining us for yet another of our amazing racing shows. We mentioned we have fantastic guests lined up for the entirety of this show. So for an action-packed hour, let's go ahead and start with some recaps that we have from Southern Iowa Speedway, Knoxville Raceway, and Eddyville Raceway. But first, let's look at what happened in Oskaloosa last Wednesday at the Southern Iowa Speedway. Finally, Mother Nature cooperated for the first time in 3 weeks as the Southern Iowa Speedway warred back with 7 classes in competition on Wednesday. SchottenKirk.com Sprint Invaders making their only visit of the season, along with the Carl Chevrolet Dirt Trucks making their second of 3 visits to the Monster Half Mile, plus the 5 weekly IMCA divisions. A total of 113 cars checked in to claim victory on Cable Bay Conveyors, Stittler's LED Supplies, and Oskaloosa True Value Night. Caden Carter took 2 wins by taking the modifieds and stock cars. Meanwhile, Daniel Fellows in the Sport Compacts and Shannon Anderson in the Hobby Stocks both continued their winning ways. Other feature winners were Ian Madsen in the Sprint Invaders, Curtis Vanderwall in the Sport Mods, and Steve Jackson in the Dirt Trucks. The first feature of the night was the 12-lap Kelly-style State Farm IMCA Sport Compacts feature event, and it was Levi Heath jumping to the early lead from the pole position. Josh Barnes powered his way by Heath for the lead on lap number 2. Barnes and Heath battled it out. Meanwhile, Daniel Fellows, who started 8th and worked his way up to 3rd, entered in the battle for the top spot. Fellows took the lead away on lap number 4, and a lap later, the only caution came out when Billy Kane blew up going down the front stretch. Fellows was not to be denied as he went on to take his 3rd win at Oskaloosa. Heath finished 2nd. Meanwhile, Barnes exited toward the pits with mechanical issues. Jake Bincicek came home 3rd in his first visit to Oskaloosa in 2017. James Rosso was 4th, and Brian Clausen was 5th. The Budweiser IMCA Stock Car 18-lap feature was next onto the Speedway, and once again they lived up to the name of the Class 2 Tough to Tame. However, before a single lap could be completed, the caution came out when Mike Brown spun in the middle of turns 1 and 2, collecting Brandon Jay and Mike McClure. Todd Reitzler chose the right lane and the right moves to take the early lead, but he had several challenges from Lewis Lynch early before Derek Agee took the top spot away on lap 5. Agee continued to lead until Mike Hughes, Nathan Wood, and Caden Carter made their way up to the battle for the top spot. Agee exited the track shortly thereafter. Hughes led lap 10 before Nathan Wood grabbed the top spot away on lap 11. Wood was holding off every challenge from Hughes, Dustin Griffiths, and Caden Carter until the last lap. Carter edged out Wood to the line for his first win in the stock cars at Oski in 2017. Wood, Hughes, Griffiths, and Reitzler rounded out the top 5. In the ShottenKirk.com Sprint Invaders 25-lap feature event, Carson McCarl and Terry McCarl started on the front row, with the younger Carson taking the top spot. Carson McCarl was doing pretty good, fending off Terry McCarl until lap traffic, which not only allowed his father Terry, but Ian Madsen to chase him down. Madsen got by both Carson and Terry on lap 12. Madsen pulled away and went on to take the win ahead of Carson McCarl, Terry McCarl, Jamie Ball, and Chris Martin. Danny Brow led lap 1 of the Oskaloosa True Value IMCA Sport Mods 16-lap feature event, but the lead changed hands 3 times in the next 4 laps. Colton Livesey led lap 2 with Carter Vandenberg leading laps 3 and 4. Vandenberg got into a tense battle with Curtis Vanderwall on lap 5, and it was Vanderwall edging out Vandenberg to the line before completing the pass. Vanderwall pulled away and went on to take his second win of the season at Oski ahead of Vandenberg, Logan Anderson, Jason McDaniel, and Corey Van Zandt. Making their second of 3 appearances at the Monster Half Mile was the Carl Chevrolet Dirt Trucks. Steve Jackson and Eric Lundstrom led the field to the green, but it was points leader Brad Moyer grabbing the top spot early. Moyer began hugging the bottom side. Meanwhile, Steve Jackson went to the high side just before the caution came out on lap 3. Moyer held off Jackson until lap 6 when Jackson took the lead away. Jackson went on to make 2 for 2 in the trucks at Oski. Moyer settled for second with Pat Gordon third, Corey Stout in fourth, and Lundstrom slipping back to fifth. Christian Huffman led the opening lap in the KBOE Radio Mahaska IMCA Hobby Stocks 15-lap feature. Ryan Wells took the lead away on lap 2 and looked comfortable in the top spot, but the caution came out twice on lap 4 for Riley Minders and then again on lap 5 for Kurt Putman in turn 3. Wells saw 6-time IMCA Hobby Stock National Champion Shannon Anderson take the lead away on lap 7. Anderson in the field saw the caution come out on one more time on lap number 12 when Putman spun in turn 2. Anderson went on to hold off Bill Bonnet for his third win in 3 nights in Oskaloosa. Bonnet finished second ahead of Aaron Martin, Mike Kincaid, and Thomas Stevens. The final feature of the night was the 20-lap Musco Lighting IMCA Modifieds feature. Todd Inman took advantage of his pole position as he led the first 3 laps before Jason Murray powered his way back on lap 4. Murray saw the caution come out on lap 6 when Inman had something break in the right front, sending him into the outside fence. Murray knew it was going to be tough to hold on to the top spot as Caden Carter, debuting a new Vanderbilt chassis, took this top spot away on the restart. Carter was heading on to the win before a caution for Scott Dickey in the turn 4 fence, forcing a green-white checkered finish. Carter held off Derek Stewart to take the win. Colton Mather, Todd Shute, and Brandon Banks finished 3rd through 5th, respectively. This Wednesday night is Musco Lighting Night, and it will feature the IMCA Modifieds, IMCA Stock Cars, IMCA Sport Mods, IMCA Hobby Stocks, and IMCA Sport Compacts. The hot laps will begin at 7 p.m. with the racing at 7:30 p.m. All the coverage will begin right here on 104.9 FM KBOE and on KBOEradio.com with the Southern Iowa Speedway pre-race show starting at 6 p.m. on Wednesday night. It was another fantastic night of action at the Knoxville Raceway as the point standings continue to iron themselves out as we enter the summer portion of the season. Mike Maryberry set the pace ahead of Brad Comagese and Ryan Levitt early in the 15-lap 305 feature. Cade Higday, who had already set quick time and won his heat, didn't let an invert of 8 slow his progress. He was in the top 5 by the second lap. When Mayberry nearly spun out in turn 4, Comagese assumed the lead with Chris Walraven and Levitt in tow. Higday jumped up to 3rd on a restart for a stalled Brandon Worthington on the 4th lap. On lap 5, carnage ensued in turn 4. Corey Counts, Joe Simbro, and Matt Stevenson all flipped, while Jeff Wilkie, Casey Grubel, and Chase Young were also involved. Comagese led Levitt, Higday, Walraven, and Eric Bridger back to the green flag racing. Bridger snatched up 4th and used the bottom to pass Higday and Levitt to move into 2nd. When Dallas Mendenhall stopped on lap 9, Comagese led Bridger, Higday, Levitt, and Walraven. Higday was a man possessed when the green flag flew again, shooting by Bridger for 2nd and then snagging the lead for good from Comagese on lap 11. Higday would survive the last restart after Grubel flipped in turn 2, and he would win ahead of Comagese, Levitt, Bridger, and Matthew Stelzer. Kelby Watt, Walraven, Kevin Hetrick, Tyler Glass, and Mayberry completed the top 10. Higday swept qualifying and his heat as well before winning for the third time in Knoxville. Hetrick and Levitt also won heat races. Sawyer Phillips grabbed the early advantage in the 18-lap 360 main event ahead of Matt Morrow and Clint Garner. Ryan Giles entered the top 3 on the second lap as he and Garner traded third in some tight racing. Morrow pressured the leader as well and took the point after a good battle on lap 4. John Anderson spun, bringing out the caution at that point, and Morrow led Phillips, Garner, Cap Henry, and Giles back to the green. Garner jumped into second at that point, followed by Henry. Anderson spun a second time 6 laps in, bringing the yellow flag out again. Garner used this restart to shoot to the lead. Chris Martin's top 10 run ended when he stopped with a broken shock at the halfway point. Garner cruised the final 9 laps. The only mystery would be who would finish behind him. Henry won a good battle with Morrow for second, while Phillips would win the 4th position over Giles. Jamie Ball, hard charger Matt Jewell, Calvin Landis, Joe Beaver, and Nate Van Haften rounded out the top 10. Giles posted the quick time of the night, and Christian Bowman, Chris Martin, and John Egan were heat winners. Ian Madsen shot out from his pole position to lead early in the 20-lap 410 feature. Brooke Tatnell shot by Austin McCarl into second when the green flag flew. 2 laps were in the books when Tim Kading spun in turn 4. Madsen led Tatnell, Austin McCarl, Kerry Madsen, and Terry McCarl back to green flag racing. Kerry Madsen put a slider on Austin McCarl in turn 2 to take over third on lap 4, but McCarl stayed close. Meanwhile, Brian Brown entered the top 5 with a pass of Terry McCarl on lap 6. Tatnell closed on the leader in traffic as the racing got intense behind them. On lap 16, Tasker Phillips smacked the turn 1 wall, bringing the final caution out right after Brown worked by Austin McCarl for 4th. Ian led Tatnell, Kerry, Brown, and Austin back to green. Brown shot around Kerry to claim third on the restart. Meanwhile, up front, Ian Madsen was in command and flew under the checkers ahead of Tatnell, Brown, Kerry Madsen, and Austin McCarl. Terry McCarl claimed 6th from Roger Phillips on the last lap ahead of Davey Heskin, Matt Jewell, and Josh Schneiderman. Brown set the quick time for the second time this season and won his heat. Cap Henry and R.J. Johnson won the other heat races. Knoxville will be back in action on Saturday night on June 3rd for Iowa Corn District 5 and Iowa Corn District 9 night as the USACM Soils National Sprint Cars invade the Knoxville Raceway for the first time since 2010. The Knoxville Championship Cup Series 360s and 305s will also be in action. For more info, you can visit KnoxvilleRaceway.com. Finally, Eddyville Raceway Park had plenty of good action on Saturday night as well, and that included several final winners. In the Powder Puff division, it was Cheryl Scepter getting the win. Rusty Kramer won in the Midwest Pro Outlaw. Jerry Jones was the winner in the Super Street 690 series. The Teen Championship Racing had Cam Barta finishing in first. Jerry McMains won the Stick Shifter class with Robbie Massey in the Top Dragster. Top Sportsman class saw John Freeborn in first place. Junior Advanced went again to Cam Barta. There was Lisa Williamson in the Super ET. And finally, in the Modified, it was Eric Bjorheim. Eddyville Raceway Park will be back for a full weekend of racing coming up this weekend. And the fun night as usual on the 2nd of June. That is a Friday with Saturday and Sunday for point races. All the action typically begins over at the Eddyville Raceway on Friday nights around 5:30 and on Saturdays right around 1. And what a fantastic week of racing it was. Finally, we got some cooperation from Mother Nature, getting all of our tracks some action. We're very excited to see what comes up this week and if we can race, including, of course, Wednesday night, the Southern Iowa Speedway, and then this weekend, Eddyville Raceway is in action along with Knoxville. And What Cheer Figure 8 is also in action as well. We'll keep an eye on the results from there as well. We're going to go ahead and take another break. When we come back, we'll take a look at our first of 3 guests that we have lined up for the evening. It's Steve Turlau with Lunatic Promotions. We're going to talk Demo Derby and the T-Bone Memorial Demolition Derby at the Southern Iowa Speedway coming up right after the break, right here on the Checkered Flag on the No Coast Network.
Ottumwa's only locally owned auto parts store, Danny's Auto Supply, not only offers great prices on the quality parts and supplies you need for your vehicle, they also now offer complete car care. From brakes, oil changes to a major overhaul, Danny's Auto Supply has you covered from A to Z with parts and now a full-time automotive technician on staff. Danny's Auto Supply is located at 827 East Main in Ottumwa. See them for all your auto parts and vehicle needs. That's Danny's Auto Supply, Ottumwa's only locally owned auto parts store.
Sigourney Body Shop is the intelligent choice. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that great service and reasonable prices are the reason Sigourney Body Shop is the #1 body shop in the Sigourney area. They do auto and truck collision repairs, glass replacement, body and paint work, free at-home estimates, are complete service specialists, and they offer pickup and delivery and a loaner car. Sigourney Body Shop at 210 Clark Street in Sigourney, or call 641-622-2022. Call Terry Schroeder Alignment and Towing in Sigourney for your alignment and towing needs at 622-2269 or 641-660-5515. They feature 24-hour towing. You can trust Schroeder's experience with your towing needs. DOT license and insured. All insurance companies welcomed. For alignment, Terry Schroeder uses the Hunter Alignment System to get your vehicle back on the road in no time. Terry Schroeder Alignment and Towing, 413 West Clark in Sigourney.
Welcome back to the Checkered Flag Live here from the Mahaska studios, the KBOE radio studios up here. I'm joined by Steve Turlau, Lunatic Promotions. Steve, thanks for joining us here.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with immediately Lunatic Promotions. Take us through what Lunatic Promotions is as a whole and how it got started.
We got started back in 2001. We've been doing stuff. We've been on TV for the Travel Channel, Discovery Channel, all that kind of fun stuff. But our best place is to always come back here in Oski. We've been doing it down here since 2003. So it's always a great facility, great crowd, and great drivers.
Well, Steve, when I think of Demolition Derby, I think of a lot of danger involved. I think of a lot of guys who are willing to build as heavy a muscular car as possible to try to outlast a lot of the other drivers. And it's one of the most enjoyable spectator sports in racing, watching these cars just smash into each other. So take me through how the event itself works, not necessarily just the T-Bone Memorial, but just any Demolition Derby that you're a part of.
Oh, you get a guy could have 10 hours in a car, or he could have 200 hours in a car. We have different classes. So we have a stock class and then a more welded class. And either they can weld their cars up or not weld their cars up. And a lot of them have big motors in it, all that kind of fun stuff. Guys will build their car, bring it to the track. We'll divide you up into what class you're in. You have to follow the specific rules, all that kind of fun stuff. And then there's a bunch of prize money and trophies.
All right, and how, when you watch these guys, we got a look at one of the T-Bone memorials here that we have, but you can just see the carnage that occurs here to try to get these guys out. How do you eliminate guys from Demolition Derby?
Oh, it's the last car moving and running. They have to make a hit within 1 minute, and we all have stopwatches, timers. So when we see them stopped, we'll put them on the timer, and they have to make a hit. So we've had it where both cars die at the same time at the end, and what we end up doing, either flipping a coin, or one of them will start out of the blue and make a tap or something. But yeah, I mean, it's the last car's running is the winner.
All right. Have you done any driving in these Demolition Derbies?
Yep. I've been doing it since I was 14, and I'm getting old and 38 now. So I've been around the sport for quite a while. So it's in my blood. I love it. Love doing it. You know, I always say, what do you go to a race for? Well, you go to see a wreck. Well, Demolition Derbies are just full of wrecks. So it's a great sport, and it continues to evolve. There's more bigger motors. Everybody tries to outdo the next person and everything, just like any motorsport.
Absolutely. So how many numbers typically do you see for maybe, let's just use the T-Bone Memorial as an example. How many drivers do you typically see?
We'll have probably between 60 and 80 drivers.
Oh, wow.
There. The numbers, motorsports in a whole has dropped a little bit, I'd say, in the past few years. Money, it's an
expensive sport, yeah.
Yes. But this is still a big one. Normal County Fair Derby has anywhere from 20 to 40 cars usually. So It's still hanging in there.
And when you find these cars, and of course it's really tough to, for a guy to, continue to rebuild these cars, to put them back out there and make sure that they run. But we talk about the fans. This is a very successful event. That's why we keep having it here at Southern Iowa Speedway. So what was the initial brainchild behind getting the annual T-Bone Memorial here at Southern Iowa Speedway?
Well, the T-Bone Memorial is after Tony T-Bone Atchison. He passed away a few years ago, and he was involved in the sport ever since I remember. Great driver, always ran a Mopar and is part of the Mopar Express group, and he passed away in a motorcycle accident. And Oskaloosa was basically his home track. So we just kind of decided to have a two-man team show here in honor of him, and then every year we've given back. The past few years, we've given to drivers. Like a couple of years ago, a driver got burnt really bad in a hog shed accident. We donated over $3,000 to him. Last year, we had another driver's wife. She has a rare disease and needed to fly overseas for that, and we raised over $6,000 for her. This year, we're going to raise money for Launching Arrows. It's a nonprofit special needs around the area. They actually just had a prom for special needs people there last month, and it's a good nonprofit, and we're going to have some of the kids out there helping us and taking tickets, and they're going to be involved too. So get those kids involved and make them feel like they're part of the event.
It's going to be very exciting, and it's always awesome to see people rallying, not only because they love motorsports, but they're supporting a cause. So for this year, you have the dates picked out. It's coming up pretty quick here. A very popular event, a lot of drivers expected. Take us through what this year's event looks like.
We're going to have a really good one. There's a big rivalry growing between some of the Iowa guys, and then we have some guys from Missouri that come up, and it's a big deal. Those guys will all bring good cars and everything. So the compacts, we're going to run a bunch of different compact heats and everything like that. So they're always exciting. We'll have Power Wheels this year again for the kids. They always enjoy that. And then we're going to try some lawnmowers this year. So that's
awesome.
That's a first time. So that'll be different.
Okay, so that's what we're going to see on track. Now, for those who may not know, Southern Iowa Speedway is the place to be for these items for this, but give us a date and the times that these are going to be happening.
June 9th, Friday, June 9th, we're going to start at 7 o'clock. Then Saturday, we'll start at 6 o'clock on June 10th.
All right, so two-day event,
yep.
And we're going to, at the No Coast Network, we'll be, of course, having ticket giveaways. We love the event. We think something exciting is always around the motorsports, which is why we're here talking about this show. Now, before we get you out of here, Steve, what I find extremely interesting about Lunatic Promotions is that you guys have, like we just saw, videos that people can watch from previous events. Yep. A lot of people film the demolition derbies because you don't have to be following people around a track. You don't have to move the camera too far to make sure you get tons of action in there. So where can people find you on the internet?
Lunatic Promotions on Facebook. We have a couple different years' videos on there. We have one for this year's teaser. It's got all the information on there. So Lunatic Promotions on Facebook. And for you local guys, we are going to bring back the Derby July 22nd. We'll have another Derby here at the Southern Iowa Fairgrounds for their county fair. And then we'll have a Derby. And then after that, we're going to bring in Charlie Farley from Arkansas. So if you haven't heard of him, check him out. So it'll be a Derby and a concert.
Awesome. That sounds like a great time. So make sure that is a week and a half, yep, basically from tonight. We're going to be having the fantastic T-Bone Memorial over at the Southern Iowa Fairgrounds at the Southern Iowa Speedway. Steve, any last thoughts for people that are thinking about maybe going, maybe trying to check it out? What is the one thing people want to know that you want people to know out in the community about this particular event? So if they're on the fence about it, they definitely think it's a can't-miss event.
Oh, this event is, again, one of the top 10 in the nation. There's derbies all over the nation, and this event is great. I mean, I've I've been to hundreds of derbies, and this is by far my most excited one I get excited for. And it's really just action-packed. There's very little sandbagging, as they want to call it, where the guys don't really hit. I mean, these guys are all great drivers. They all build great cars, big motors, and they love to hit. So it's more, I would say this derby is more about getting the Lunatic Award than winning it.
And what is the Lunatic Award?
Lunatic Award is what I like to give away, a plaque, and it's for the hardest hitter. So the guy who puts on the best show. It might be a guy who goes out and makes 5 great hits and then his car dies, but he put on a great show. You know, guys want to see them guys. They don't want to see the guys that putt around and don't hit.
And just try to hide in the corner until it's winning time, right?
Yep.
Okay, so once again, that is going to be next Friday, next Saturday, 7 p.m. on Friday, 6 p.m. on Saturday at the Southern Iowa Fairgrounds. Lunatic Promotions putting on the annual T-Bone Memorial Demolition Derby. Steve, thanks so much for joining us, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again before the Southern Iowa Fair to talk about the demo that's going to be coming up late in July. But thanks so much for joining us.
Yep. Appreciate it.
All right, that is Steve Turlau from Lunatic Promotions, and we'll take a break. When we come back on the Checkered Flag, we'll be joined by Bill McCroskey. We'll be talking sprint cars with him right after this on the Checkered Flag on the No Coast Network.
Spring is here, and so is racing season. Every race car driver knows how important it is to take care of their car. At Oskaloosa's Quality Car Wash, it's more than just a name. It's what they offer. The touchless car wash has no brushes and won't leave any scratches. There are 4 options to choose from, and all will leave your car looking spotless. Quality Car Wash is located at 1101 A Avenue West in Oskaloosa. Race in to Oskaloosa's Quality Car Wash today.
Hi, I'm fake Sarah McLaughlin. When was the last time you really gave your car some love? Has your car been the victim of neglect over the winter? Does it have old French fries in places that no one should ever have old French fries? Then wait no further. Pick up the phone and give Jeff at Vanderlinden Detailing a call right now. Give your vehicle the love it deserves, a full inside and outside detail. Make a difference today. Call Jeff at 641-780-0119 or follow Vanderlinden Detailing on Facebook.
This is Mike Serig with Vital Ministries, and we are looking forward to this new race season right here in Oskaloosa. We have many options for you race fans to get plugged in on a weekly basis throughout the season. We have a radio broadcast every Sunday morning at 8:30 on KBOE 104.9 FM, and we also send out daily inspirations for both men and women on our vitalministries.org webpage 6 days a week. So don't just sit there and let the summer speed by. Come join us throughout the race season.
Welcome back. We are live with the Checkered Flag Show right here on the No Coast Network. Emery Songer, and my second guest of the evening is Bill McCroskey, our sprint car racing correspondent. Bill, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Emery. How you doing?
Doing fantastic, sir.
Great.
You had quite the busy week this past week.
Yeah, there was a lot of sprint car racing in the southeast Iowa area. We had Oskaloosa Wednesday night, Donaldson Friday night, Knoxville Saturday night, and Burlington Sunday night.
Yeah, and you, as the sprint car aficionado that you weren't about to miss any of those. So let's just get started one by one. Last Wednesday, Southern Iowa Speedway, the Sprint Invaders finally got a chance to run on the Oskaloosa track and put on a great show as part of Super Wednesday. What did you see from what was a fantastic night of sprint car racing?
Well, it was. Like you say, we finally got a show in of any kind of racing, whether sprint cars or trucks or hobby stocks, whatever. But it was a good show. They had a great car count. I believe they had 29 sprint cars at Oskaloosa on Wednesday night, and it was just like you say, a good show. It's a fast show. We got out of there a decent time, and I think everybody enjoyed themselves. John Schultz, I believe, was the winner, and he's kind of a veteran of that series, so it was nice to see a veteran win.
Hey, you saw those guys once again before we got to Knoxville as they went to Donaldson, a track I've not been to in, I believe, Lee County.
Lee County Speedway.
How did that go?
It was a good show. Again, a good car count. I believe it was 27, maybe 20. I think it was 27 cars. And Lee County for sprint cars puts on a great show. It's a short track. It's almost the exact opposite of Oskaloosa or Southern Iowa Speedway, and It's a nice wide track. It's a forgiving track. Jamie Ball led the first 22 laps and tagged the wall coming off of 4. And Terry McCarl, a wily veteran, was waiting in the wings, dove under him, and motored away for a 3-lap victory. But I'm sure the $1,500 check cashed very well for Terry. He'd be happy if he led 30 feet as long as he got the trophy and the winner's check. But it was a good show.
Well, and what I find interesting about these tracks, and we talked about it last time, is just how different each of the tracks kind of reacts, especially to as fast a machine as these sprint cars are. So when we talk about just a shorter track, how does that kind of affect the cars?
Well, it really does. The wing doesn't play as big a role, but it plays a role, and it just makes for a little closer racing. They don't necessarily get strung out because on a half mile you can kind of somewhat get strung out, and you're in lap traffic. I think Jamie Ball entered lap traffic on like lap 6 or something at Lee County. So there's something going on. It's not. It's a different. It's like red wine versus white wine. The speed isn't there like you get on a Southern Iowa Speedway or Knoxville racetrack for the sprint cars, but there's action in every corner virtually, Emery. So that's kind of the difference. Well, the results there you talked about, you just want to lead at the right time. 3 races, 3 classes as usual at Knoxville Raceway. But before we even get to that, the big headliner all around the state, all around the country in terms of what happened was actually not in a feature. We'll take a look at it. Take me through the wild ride that sent a car actually flying over the wall and through some billboards in turn 1 and 2. Well, Alan Zoot actually was following in his father's footsteps. His father actually had went over that same corner at one time when the wall was a lot lower. And I don't know if you touched on it or not, but the other car in the accident was a 15-year-old girl from Canada. A lot of people think Alex is a guy, and I'm guessing it's Alexis or something, but Alex Hill is a 15-year-old girl from Six Nations, Ontario, Canada, and it was a racing deal. She got under Alan, got a little bit loose. Alan got into her left, and that's really what launched him. Was her left rear propelled him up even more than normal, and I suspicion that there'll be a high fence behind those billboards by next Saturday night. I don't know that for sure, but I think it'll probably happen. Well, I read somewhere, obviously it's a crazy ride for both Zoot and Hill, but one thing that I read was that's just the 8th car that ever actually left the premises. Probably. Back in the old days, and I'm talking the old days, it was not that uncommon, but you only had a trip rail around 1 and 2. You're only talking 3 foot. They didn't have wings on them. I can remember, and it was so long ago, there was a sale barn where the Hy-Vee parking lot was. Highway 14 was 2 lanes, and they would go across and land in the sale barn parking lot. So in the modern era, I would say that you're probably right, 8 cars. But in the non-modern era, there were plenty of cars that used to go across the fence or through the fence because there was nothing there. It was just a fence. There was no brick wall. There was no chain link, and it was not unusual to have a car, go bouncing out there. But in the modern era, 8 cars is right. And I believe the video that you're playing there, the last I saw, had 1.5 million views. Oh, it got around real fast. And a lot of people were sharing that because of how just odd the crash is. When we talk open wheels, though, a lot of terrible. We saw a terrible crash in the Indianapolis 500 on Sunday. These cars can get airborne, and because of the speed that we see, not only the speed, but the way that the car is situated with the wings or the spoilers. Well, they got a high center of gravity for starters, and it just looks like they float when they get into air. Well, they do. The wing becomes just the opposite. Instead of a down force, it's an up force. It's really just an airplane wing turned upside down. And when he got off that funny angle, the speed was there. He was probably doing 100 miles an hour or something like that. And that car's not very heavy at all. So the wing became his enemy instead of his friend. And the Indianapolis wreck was very similar. The guy just kind of launched over the guy's wheel and launched him up in the air. And the aerodynamics got under the belly pan of the car, which sucks those cars down. But it was not his friend at that point when the air hit him. So that it was kind of odd that they both happened on the same weekend, and they were getting play, all over the place because of the similarity, even though they were two different types of cars.
Yeah, the Indy car didn't go over a fence. He hit the fence, and lucky for everyone involved, not only in Knoxville but in Indianapolis, nobody was hurt. So, I mean, you hear it so many times in those Indy cars and in sprint cars, injuries happen all the time. Right. They are not, the stock car, the sturdy stock cars that have tons of layers of protection for the driver. So, great to see everybody, making it out okay there. But that's a lot of damage for a car, and we talk about how expensive this sport is. What do you think Zoot is going to, and even Hill, how long does it take to rebuild that car? Would they be able to race again in a week's time?
I don't know. Alan told somebody, I didn't talk to him, but told somebody he's probably going to have to heal up financially for a couple weeks. He was out throwing a football with his kids on Sunday, which speaks highly to the safety crew at Knoxville and the safety equipment that Knoxville requires on these cars. So I don't know if that's right or not, but he said he'd be a couple weeks before he got back to the track. The Hill girl, being from Canada, I couldn't tell you anything about her situation, but she runs here on a hit-and-miss basis anyhow. So if she's not here this coming Saturday night, it may not be anything more than she's at Ohio.
Right.
Or somewhere.
And for a young girl like that, I mean, that's a wreck that's just going to put some odometers on her experience tank as well, So good to see everybody walk away from that okay. And that's just kind of action you see in Knoxville. That was far from the only wreck that was going on there.
Yeah.
There were a lot of overturned cars. Is that, for somebody like me that hasn't followed the sprint car racing, is that just kind of the nature of the beast when we're talking about sprint cars running at a place they get to go real fast at Knoxville?
Well, Emery, it seems like it happens in bunches. It usually happens on full moon night. And I know that sounds funny, but it's the truth. It was not a full moon Saturday night. It just, the stars, it's an actuarity table. You race those things long enough, they're going to get upside down. We might go 2 weeks in a row and hardly have a yellow flag. And then you have a night like last Saturday night where if it was going to happen, it happened. So you're right, though. Saturday night was just one of those nights. But they still got the show over in a pretty good time. I think the checkered flag dropped at 10:30, 10:45, something like that. So even with all the reds, they move them in, move them out, and it's fan friendly that way. The fans get to come down and mingle with the drivers, and still kind of a second show after the first show.
Yeah, and of course, no injuries reported, which is always the number one issue. We talked, to the Knoxville marketing director, and she said everybody, the thrill of the wreck is seeing the driver get out of the wreck okay, and that's what we were able to see with all of the wrecks in Knoxville on Saturday. So now let's talk the races that actually occurred. The 305s, the 360s, and the 410s all had fantastic races, and a lot of passing, especially early, not necessarily late in those features. What did you see on Saturday?
Well, first of all, you had 3 Australians in the top 5 of the 410 class, and they ran first, second, and fourth. You had the 2 Madsen brothers and Brooke Tatnell. They were first, second. Brooke was second, and Kerry Madsen was fourth. So out of the top 5, it's kind of an international flavor there. But yeah, Ian Madsen just kind of shot out to a lead, and he was fast. If your car's fast, it's pretty hard for somebody that's just as fast as you, not that necessarily anybody was, to pass you, because you got to be faster than the other guy. So that it was a good show from that respect. But from second on back or third on back, there was lots of swapping and stuff going on. So again, just because the leader kind of shoots out to a victory doesn't mean that the excitement wasn't there. And in the 360 class, Clint Garner came from, I think the 3rd row or something for his 30th career victory, and that means that there's plenty of passing going on there, and it was a good show in the 360s. The young Higday boy, Cade Higday, he won the 305 class. He swept the 305 class. He had quick time, won his heat race. I think he started 8th in the feature and won the feature, and it was nice because his great-grandma died, I believe, on Wednesday, and he kind of dedicated the win to his great-grandmother. So that was a nice gesture on his part, and I'm sure it made the family feel good that he could win after passing.
Not only win once, but win in multiple ways on Saturday. And when we're talking about points, a week like that, especially early in the season, puts him in pretty good shape as we kind of get into the dog days of summer here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to probably be pretty hard for anybody to pass him in points if he continues with that kind of a pace, because he's right there. Young Ryan Levitt, I'm sure will pressure him, and probably Kevin Hedrick will. They'll have 3 or 4 guys pressuring him, but Higday's in the driver's seat, as they say in some sports analogies.
There's so many family members I've also noticed that are racing against each other. McCarls, Madsons. Yep. I mean, it's just a racing thing, and we see some of that in the Southern Iowa Speedway and the IMCA classes that we see there. But in sprint cars, it just seems like they kind of run together, and they are big-time rivals. They love to beat each other as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, how has that been, because we see so many of the same names, not only the Sprint Invaders, but also, with the Knoxville racing each and every week that are battling for spots and important spots for points as the season wears on.
Well, you see a lot of times brothers running each other, but in the 410 class, to see Terry and his son Austin racing against each other, and they ran, I believe, 5th and 6th. So, and I can guarantee you they don't even know what car's in front. They just know there's a car in front of them. There's no way they know what number it is. You don't have time to process that. You just know there's another car, and I got to try to pass him. He's here. I'm going there, and then maybe later on you go, oh, that was my son Austin, or that was my dad Terry. But at that point, you really don't know, and even if you knew, you don't care.
Right. Well, that's good for them. But the Sprint Invaders weren't done there. They moved down to the very tip of Iowa, in the southeast tip of Iowa, down to Burlington. And what was the racing like down there on Sunday?
Emory, I've been to probably 20 Sprint Invader shows over the years, and that was the best show I've ever seen.
Awesome.
Again, a good car count. I think they had 28, I believe, because they had 2 9-car heats and 1 8-car heat. So it was 26 cars, I believe. But the feature I thought was the best Sprint Invader feature I've ever seen in 15-year existence of the Sprint Invaders. I don't know how long they've exactly been around. And not only was the feature good, it had a bizarre ending, and so it was a little bit of everything. I don't know if you touched on it or not, but the actual winner at the checkered flag was Chris Martin, a young man out of Ankeny, I think 17, 18 years old, and he was disqualified for, I don't even want to call it an illegal tire. He had the wrong tire on. He had a tire on that actually probably hurt him, but rules are rules. But it's not often that you see somebody handicap themselves and win something and then get disqualified. I feel bad for him, but both him and his dad, they're stand-up people. No screaming, no, they understood. It was an error. They grabbed a tire. They didn't realize it was an H, which stands for hard, and M stands for medium, which means medium soft. And there was no attempt to cheat anybody, but it put Ryan Jameson in the victory lane, who's I think it was his 7th career victory with the Sprint Invaders. He's a veteran. That guy's been around. He's won a race here at Oskaloosa that wasn't a Sprint Invaders race. But Ryan's a wily, cagey old veteran, and he started, I believe, 9th in the feature and just had his car set up to run the bottom. And he actually ran 2nd on the track, but it really doesn't matter. The trophy says winner, the paycheck says first place. But it was an awesome show, and again, a quick, snappy show. And we were out of there probably at 10:15 or something like that. It was just not much after dark, but Amy Lau did a good job of pushing that show along and getting the people home early so they could enjoy Memorial Day on Monday then. But great show.
Busy week. I don't know how many of those kind of weeks you're going to have, Bill, but thanks so much for joining us. We'll have you in as we have earlier this year on the Checkered Flag. You're going to be a regular guest here to talk sprint cars, what's happening in Knoxville, and anything local that involves the sprint cars. You are the man. Thanks so much for joining us again here on the Checkered Flag.
And don't forget, Saturday night at Knoxville, you'll have sprint cars without wings.
Yeah, that's going to be wild.
So it's the Hall of Fame induction weekend. You'll have big-name drivers from all over. Tony Stewart comes in a lot of times, Casey Kane or whatever. But if they haven't seen a non-wing show, in their life. It's totally different, very fast, not as fast as a wing car, but it's going to be a great show. And if they get a chance, they'd really enjoy to watch those cars without wings.
Excellent, Bill. We'll definitely keep track of that.
Thank you again, Emery.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us on the Checkered Flag. That is, once again, Bill McCroskey. We'll take a break, come back, and our final guest of the evening, Donnie Pearson. He's going to be joining us to talk about his stock car when we return on the Checkered Flag on the No Coast Network.
RJ Performance wants to remind you that now is a great time to buy an Indian motorcycle. Use your tax refund for something you will love, or take advantage of great financing offers with payments starting as low as $99 per month. They are also honoring our heroes with greater discounts. Get $1,000 bonus for all active, reserve, National Guard, and retired military personnel, plus active and retired police, firefighters, and volunteer firefighters. Get ready for spring with a new Indian motorcycle today at RJ Performance in Ottumwa. See RJ Performance for details. Always wear a helmet, never drink and drive.
April at Motor and Auto Group in Knoxville means new deals on new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles on the lot. A 2017 Dodge Journey SXT 4-wheel drive is 23% off MSRP and saves you over $5,700. A 2017 Dodge Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab 4x4 is 20% off MSRP and saves you over $1,000 when you purchase. Or look good in a 2017 Dodge Charger SXT all-wheel drive, saving you over $6,900 with 20% off MSRP. The dealer that's easy to deal with and hard to beat. Motor and Auto Group in Knoxville.
At Pepsi, we think it's important to celebrate stuff in life.
Like when you text that really cute guy you met at a party on Friday, and he immediately texts you back. You celebrate with an ice-cold Pepsi.
Or your friend turns on the radio, and your absolute most favorite new song just happens to be playing. That calls for a Pepsi, too.
Because when you and your roommate order a pizza, and the delivery guy throws in extra breadsticks no charge?
Break out the Pepsi.
Welcome back. Our final guest of the evening here on the Checkered Flag on KBOE and KBOEradio.com, Donnie Pearson. Donnie, how's it going?
Not too bad.
All right. First things first, let's talk about your career because you're now in a stock car. You started out in the figure eights. Talking to our good friend Curtis Vanderwall, you're an interesting guy to talk to. Let's take me through from when you were a tyke, just getting interested in racing, to getting into a car and now finding yourself driving a stock car in the IMCA class.
Well, my figure eight racing career, I can't remember what year I started it for sure, but I raced it probably 8 years in the open class, and it started out as really heavy iron cars, and then we went to smaller metric cars, lighter, faster, but I did really good at figure eight racing, and so then I just thought I needed a different challenge, so I went into stock cars about 4 years ago, started them. And I always thought, it looked pretty easy from the stands, and you get out there and it's not as easy as it looks. It's totally different setups. I mean, you can't mess up, easy and come back. It don't work that way.
Well, you're talking sprint cars, or stock cars here. Right. The class that Jeremy Fox, the Foxman who does our announcing on Wednesday nights, the class too tough to tame. This is, loaded with talented drivers, really tough to stay in the front. You see just one little bad luck moment of a race, and that'll take the guy to the top five, and he can't get back into it. Was there ever a thought that maybe to start with maybe the hobby stocks, where a lot of guys kind of start hobby stock and graduate into the stocks, or you just wanted to jump into the toughest one right away?
Well, I don't know. I just wanted to jump into stock cars because it seemed like to me there was more adjustments maybe that I could make to adjust to my driving style than a hobby stock. And then I get into the class and everybody's like motors and cars, so it's so close to each other, but it's the veterans that that can drive really smooth, and it takes so long to get smooth seat time, and it's just a really tough class.
So 4 years into it, are you where you thought you'd be right when you started into the stock cars about at this point? I know we're still early here in the season, but how have you thought about your progression in the stock cars, especially with all the great drivers that you have to go up against each week?
Well, my when I first started, I was doing most of the setups myself, and now about 2 years ago, I got a guy that does my setups now for me, and I don't even know what he does, but I just sit in the car, so he just tells me, it'll be fine, race it. But ever since he started helping me, I've done a lot better. I've been more competitive because I don't I didn't know what to do, and he just adjusts the car, and then I got a really good chassis now, and he's trying to adjust the car to how I drive. He knows his setups work, but my driving style, he's trying to figure out how I want the car. But I mean, we're getting better every race. So.
All right, so we know you race here in Oskaloosa Southern Iowa Speedway in the number 19 in the stock car division. Where are the other tracks that you take the car? Do you take them to other tracks as well, or is Oskaloosa kind of the place right now?
Oskaloosa is mainly the place right now. I've been trying to get my new open figure 8 car done too, so I've been kind of just staying here.
Doing both.
Right. Yeah. I want to go back to my figure 8 because I know how to set that car up. So, and it's really, it gives you a little more. More exciting when you go through an X and.
There's an intersection there.
Right.
I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you know that, Donnie. There's an intersection. It's a dangerous thing. What makes a guy want to drive in a figure 8 track?
I don't really know.
Is there a good answer there?
I don't know the answer for sure on that. It's just I just know when I first started that when I'd go through the intersection, I'd close my eyes. But now, I actually keep them open, and you kind of get a feel of once you start racing them who might try to keep going and who actually might stop for you. But you just never know sometimes.
And you want to go back to that.
Right.
You are a wild man, Donnie. Okay, so now when we talk about this, every guy likes to drive differently. Is there a certain spot on the circle tracks that you'd rather be high, you like it low, or is it just kind of what's working on a different night? Are you able to adjust to that on a race-to-race basis based on where the leaders are running or what the dirt is doing based on what the weather has done to it, or is there just one specific spot that you just really like to ride?
No, there's not one specific spot, but my setup guy, when he started doing my setups, he always told me that he would rather me try different lines than follow where everybody's going, so we kind of learn a little more because it seems like everybody in Oski right now is running the bottom. And I've been trying to get up higher, but if you stay down at the bottom, you can hook up. But I want to try something. I'd rather fall back spots than just keep following everybody.
No, that makes sense. You want to get that win, and you got to pass cars to win, and that takes doing something different than the rest of the cars. So that makes a lot of sense. You talk about people that help you. That includes sponsors. Who helps you out with your car and your setup each and every week, trying to get the number 19 out there?
Well, my biggest sponsor would be our farm, Pearson Farms, of course, and then would be my two brothers. One is Absolute Concrete, and then the other one's SCI Communications. And but my setup guy, he's Jeff Adams, and no relation. To Chris Adams. That I run an Adams chassis, but he is the one doing all the setup for me, and I do most of the work. He's gone during the week, but on the weekends he comes by and checks it. Make sure it's okay.
All right, so now with the season kind of slowed by the weather, you haven't gotten a chance to go out there. Has that affected your progression this year at all, having only been out, gotten a chance to drive the car in Oskaloosa 3 times instead of the 6 that you could have had so far? And where do you see this kind of leading you as you try to continue to move up the standings as the season wears on?
Yeah, it's well, if you just stay in here like in Oski, like I've been doing, and I've noticed, I could go to other tracks, but that's where a lot of people is getting more advantage over this year, is going to other tracks, getting more seat time, seeing what's working. And but this year is the start of the year. We started a whole different setup. So, I'll be going to more tracks probably after this month. I'll start going to more. But I've already got my spot for Boone Nationals. I'm gonna go try it again this year. I did it last year, and I did pretty good last year there, first time ever being there, so I had fun. I'll go back, and hopefully it don't rain every day. And hopefully we get out of there before 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and with the way that the weather has been right now, and with the new setup, trying to make sure that the track that you're primarily going to run with, you get the setup figured out for that track primarily. Is there any kind of secret that you've noticed from some of these other guys? Because one thing that I've noticed is guys like Shannon Anderson in those hobby stocks, and Caden Carter doubled up on last Wednesday. You have guys like Curtis Vanderwall. It's a lot of the same names that are running up front. early this season at the Southern Iowa Speedway. I know a lot of guys are trying to take notes and try to figure out ways to run with these guys, past these guys. Stock cars is completely different because there's so many good drivers, and as you mentioned, it's so competitive. But what kind of is the brain-picking method of a lot of these guys? Because it's kind of a brotherhood. A lot of guys trying to help each other out on a certain level. So what have you been able to pick up through the first 3 weeks of this season?
Well, what I've picked up so far is everybody likes to run the bottom. You need to. I just don't. You just can't make mistakes. You gotta be smooth, and I'm not that experienced. And you talk about Caden and Nathan, and they just have so many years and experience of doing it. They race 3-4 times a week.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of difference.
Well, especially considering the fact that guys like Caden Carter's running multiple times a night in different cars. So,
right.
But season's young, and your career in a stock car is young. Getting back in that figure eight, that should be exciting as well. I'm sure we'll talk to you again later on as the season wears on. But, Donnie, thanks so much for joining us here on the Checkered Flag.
Thanks.
All right, that is Donnie Pearson, our final guest of the evening on the Checkered Flag. We'll take one final break, come back, and wrap things up right after this on the Checkered Flag on the No Coast Network.
Hi, we are Caleb and Carissa. And Kate. And our dad is Boomer. You know the guy that owns Vanderbeek Truck Accessories. If you're in need of truck or SUV accessories, come see our dad. He offers what you need to be riding in style. He'll make your truck cool, and he'll make you smile. Call 628-9350 or stop on the east side of Pella on Oskaloosa Street. Tell Dad the kids sent you.
Lunatic Promotions is bringing you 2 nights of action with the largest demolition derby in the state of Iowa. Ranked as one of the top 10 derbies in the nation, the T-Bone Memorial Derby is June 9th and 10th at the Southern Iowa Speedway. Come watch hard-hitting drivers from all over the country battle in the full-size and compact class. Don't miss the T-Bone Memorial Derby, opening Friday night, the 9th at 7 p.m. at the Southern Iowa Speedway in Oskaloosa. Like Lunatic Promotions on Facebook. Contact Jim Vavra with Morton Buildings when you want to build something that lasts. Jim grew up in New Sharon and currently lives in Oskaloosa. He has 30 years of sales and marketing experience, with 4 of those years focused on selling confinement buildings. Jim looks forward to meeting you to discuss your new farm storage, insulated workshop, hobby building, and more. Call Jim Vavra with Morton Buildings at 641-919-2838. Morton Buildings, America's leader in post-frame construction.
Welcome back one final time. We are live here at the KBOE studios in Oskaloosa. I'd like to thank our guests this evening. Donnie Pearson, we just talked to, Steve Turlau of Lunatic Promotions. Don't forget about the fantastic T-Bone Memorial Demolition Derby over at the Southern Iowa Fairgrounds coming up next weekend. Not this weekend, but next weekend, and we'll continue to promote that as well. And then also my sprint car correspondent for the Checkered Flag, Bill McCroskey, for coming in and talking all things Sprint Invaders and the Knoxville Raceway. We will have coverage as usual on Wednesday night at the Southern Iowa Speedway. Jeremy Fox will be bringing it to you. We have the Southern Iowa Speedway pre-race show starting at 6 p.m. on 104.9 FM KBOE, all over the world on KBOEradio.com and the KBOE mobile app. The regular racing action is going to be starting around 7:30 normal time, which means our broadcast will start around 7:15 on KBOE and KBOEradio.com. Once again, I'd like to thank our entire crew, George Henry, Miranda Keeler, and Titus Litzring. For everyone here at the No Coast Network, thank you so much for joining us for another edition of the Checkered Flag. Again, we'll be back on the air with the Checkered Flag next Tuesday at 7 p.m. on both KBOE and with video on KBOEradio.com. For everyone, this is Emery Sunger signing off for the Checkered Flag on the No Coast Network.
This has been the Checkered Flag on your station for racing. 104.9 FM KBOE and all over the world at KBOEradio.com. The Checkered Flag has been presented by Mahaska, National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum, Sigourney Body Shop, Danny's Auto Supply, Quality Car Wash, Morton Buildings, Motorin Auto Group of Knoxville, Vanderlinden Detailing, Schroeder Alignment and Towing, Vital Ministries, RJ Performance, and Vanderbeek Truck Accessories. This has been the Checkered Flag on 104.9 FM KBOE and all over the world at KBOEradio.com. This has been a production of No Coast Network.